Welcome to How Preschool Teachers Do It.
I'm Cindy.
I'm Alison.
And we have a combined 55 years of experience working with children, families, and experts in early education.
We are not random influencers.
No, we are not. Whether you are new or have been our podcast peeps since 2018, we are thrilled you found us. Hi, preschool peeps.
Hi, peeps.
Welcome back to the podcast.
Yay, happy Monday.
Yeah. Every Monday, right? We are
Monday.
an every Monday deal.
We
every
are.
Monday. And we have started, if you're thinking, are they releasing episodes earlier? Yeah, we did start releasing them earlier than we used to because people requested it for their drive to work.
That is true.
Or their commute, however it is you're getting to work. So we did do that. Yes. We've done several, my son would say, many things. So we did adjust based on feedback. We adjusted the time that the podcast is released on Mondays. On our Spaces by Wix app, I've been putting up 2 future episodes on that app instead of 1.
Okay, that's good stuff right there.
Yeah, but I'm not going to claim to be, totally and completely predictable as to when I'll put them up.
Correct. We are human beings, remember?
Yeah, but they're there. So if you want to join the Spaces by Wix app and get direct access to us, you can go to our website, howpreschoolteachersdoit.com, and find out how to do that. Mm-hmm. We changed the opening and the ending of the podcast. Oh, yeah. We were obviously a little bored, but
yes.
But here we are. And we do definitely want to shout out some of the places. We have new places. We're not even places. Fishing for where can we find a it just came right up in our stats, some new places where this podcast is being listened to. So go ahead and say hi to the people, Allison.
Yes. Hi to the people of Oman. Welcome. And also hi to the people of San Diego, California.
San Diego, California. So that when this releases, on the date that this releases, and we do record a little ahead of time.
On the actual date.
On the actual date that this releases, I will be in San Diego for a family wedding. I'm super excited.
It's the day of the wedding.
Yes.
Today.
Yes.
Yes.
So while we recorded this ahead of time, while you're all listening to it, I'm likely getting ready to attend a family wedding.
Yes.
Okay. In San Diego. I'm so excited. I've been to San Diego. Love it there. Of course, beautiful there. And my husband's not been there, so we took advantage of the family invitation.
Yay.
To take a little tiny bit of time in San Diego and then go and see my family who lives on the West Coast.
That's nice. That'll be a very nice vacation.
Yes. And I'm there right now, even though I'm not there right now, which is like the weirdness of time on life. All right. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about other weirdness.
Yes.
A weirdness that I find very, very disturbing when I looked into it. I forget which one of us brought it up first. It may have been you.
Really?
I don't know.
I never bring up stuff first.
May have been you. So we're here today, as you may know from the title of the episode, should we decide to put it in there after we record this, that we're going to be talking about something called C-PTSD. Yes. So PTSD is pretty familiar to people at this point. It's post-traumatic stress disorder. We know that our classrooms, and I mean our homes certainly, but our classrooms or whatever setting you're in with young children should be trauma-informed, trauma-sensitive, because you never know what people are going through.
Correct.
What we discovered when we were looking into this is that there is something called C, like the letter C, PTSD. Yeah. C stands for complex. And what we learned was there's kind of 2 different types of post-traumatic stress disorder. Just PTSD can be based on an event, like you're in an accident and you have PTSD from it, or there was just one event maybe that caused this.
Single event,
right?
Could cause it,
So most often that's event connected.
Yes.
But then there's something called C, PTSD, complex. And it's complex because it's not based on one event. It is trauma over time.
Yes.
Right?
Repeated events.
And very often, according to the literature and the research, C-PTSD is something that they see coming from repeated child abuse, neglect. Really unhealthy attachments. To adults.
It could be stuff also like, what I read was, it could be like if you live in a community that has a lot of violence in it, it doesn't have to necessarily be within the house. It could be like your community has a lot of trauma with it. places of war, where there's, I mean, that's
it's a real world thing now, for
real
sure.
world thing. So like, it doesn't have to necessarily be within the house. It could be within your community, something that is repeated over and over again that's causing trauma.
And this trauma can definitely start in childhood. I mean, think of all the young children that are living in areas of war, that are living in extreme conditions and poverty. Children who may be, unfortunately, in situations where there's abuse or neglect. And so what caught our attention about this, you may be wondering, why are we talking about this? What caught our attention about this is the fact that, and you can correct me if I'm saying this incorrectly for sure, C-PTSD, the one that's ongoing, the one that's complex, the one that we often see the roots of in early childhood, is not in the diagnosis code.
Right.
Which is the what do they call it? The
DSM-5, I think they're on now.
DSM-5, yeah. So the thing that they use to identify a diagnosis, the DSM-5, it's not in there as a standalone. Some doctors, am I right? Some doctors are having it be a subset of PTSD, but it's different. It's different.
To me, it's very different. I honestly think, for me, when I would think of PTSD, the one that we're all usually familiar with, you know, you always think of PTSD as like soldiers that came back from war, right? The military that came back from war. And to me, like, they don't have PTSD. They have C-PTSD, right? Because they were in a war for several years with repeated trauma, right? So I think like what we think of as PTSD is actually C-PTSD. So to me, it's wild that C-PTSD is not a diagnosis code, when I think that might be. You know, I'm not, if people who know me would know, I think I'm not a big conspiracy theory person at all. I'm not into that. I'm not into the conspiracy theories. And for me, like, you have to prove something to me. That's why I'm so fascinated with documentaries. I'm not just going to sit here and do that. But it disturbs me that something so attached to experiences that people have from the time they're children can't get in that diagnosis code for some reason. And there are articles out there that were saying things like, is it because it has to do with children? That we don't take it as seriously? And we don't even label things like, oh, you were at war. That's not like your standard PTSD. That's C-PTSD. That's C-PTSD. And therefore it should have its own diagnosis code. But there are so many things that go on with young children that we don't take seriously. But I think this conspiracy theory thing that you got going on here,
I don't know if it's a conspiracy. I'm just asking a question.
No, but I think there might be a little validity to that, in that children aren't necessarily, they're growing up in that environment, right? So sometimes they don't realize that what they're experiencing is trauma until years later sometimes, right? And so, like... Yeah,
but the people who are diagnosing that trauma years later should have a specific diagnosis for it.
That's what doesn't make sense.
Is it because, and it says it in some articles too, is it because it so closely relates to childhood and children, and there is this generational thing of children's feelings don't matter as much, or whatever happened in your childhood, you need to let that go.
Get over it.
Get over it.
You hear that a lot. Okay, yeah.
You can't get over everything, folks.
You can't get over that.
It doesn't make what the person is going through because of trauma any less important, significant, or even less of a diagnosis than something that would more typically perhaps happen in adulthood.
Right.
I mean, I can't help but like be sort of drawn to those articles that are like, is it because so many people who have this from childhood are being diagnosed with it? And, we know the importance of strong attachments with adults. We know the long-term impact of child abuse and neglect.
Yeah.
Any trauma in childhood, including things like, our family is in jeopardy because of food scarcity, diaper scarcity, war, famine, whatever. Like anything that's going to impact the children changes their brain development. And so, of course, we see long-term effects because it's literally C-PTSD, I'm saying it so deliberately because I don't want to get the letters mixed up, but C-PTSD changes when it starts in childhood. It changes the way the brain is wired. It changes the way it connects. And I just can't help but think people are not realizing this is a separate sort of PTSD, and not recognizing it actually should stand alone in the DSM-5, in the Diagnosis Code book.
It should.
They have a billing code for it, which is super interesting.
There is a billing code for it. That's what I found out this morning when I was like, oh, I better research this a little bit more. There is a billing code for it. So, like, that to me is crazy that there's a billing code for it, but not a diagnosis for it.
You know what it kind of reminds me of? It kind of reminds me of when they decided that whoever they are, I don't know who they are, but whoever they are, decided that Asperger's is no longer its own diagnosis. And they took it out of the DSM-5.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So now all these people who had been diagnosed according to the DSM-5 with Asperger's,
Right.
now we're losing benefits of that diagnosis.
Yeah.
They had to go and be retested for spectrum of autism differently, I think. But it was a big deal to people who had that diagnosis, and now it's no longer part of the code.
Right.
And I can tell you, as someone who has something medically that's new in the DSM-5, and by new I mean not new. I mean, so I have something genetically that became part of the DSM-5. I believe they told me in 2016, and that's nearly 10 years ago, and there are still so many doctors that don't know it exists. Every time I go to a doctor, I have to bring information from the National Institutes for Health.
Right.
Because they don't know it exists. So the diagnosis code information moves slowly.
Yes.
And so why are we not campaigning for children now who suffer trauma and saying this needs to be on equal footing with the PTSD that it can be caused by like one particular incident, for example. And it's not an umbrella. It's kind of like they're using spectrum of autism, and they said, Asperger's really is that umbrella.
It's under
but people lost things that they had.
Yeah.
They lost benefits. They lost things. I personally don't think we should be umbrella-ing. I made up a word there. Yeah. Umbrella-ing things that impact people like that.
I agree with that, yes. Because I think also when I was reading about C-PTSD this morning, it also got umbrellaed with two other things that I think are in the DSM-5, which is PTSD, right? Because it's in there, and borderline personality disorder. So,
which is like, how is that umbrellaed together?
Because a lot of the same symptoms of C-PTSD are also symptoms of borderline personality disorder. So I think there are people who are getting misdiagnosed with borderline personality disorder who don't have that necessarily. They really have C-PTSD.
So what we're boiling down to is, I don't think that we have enough specificity. Not enough specifics having to do with some of these diagnoses, especially those that start in childhood for many people.
Yeah.
And we always like to give you all actionable things to do. So first of all, if you ever see anything having to do with this, please campaign for the fact that it needs to be its own diagnosis, and that all early educators need to be aware that the experiences that children have very young cause complex post-traumatic stress disorder, that impacts the children's brain development at this age, the way their brains are wired. And so we always need to make sure that we're doing things, that we're implementing high quality practices to be trauma informed. And those practices include, I'm looking over, if you're on YouTube, I'm looking over to make sure I don't leave anything out. I have notes. Those practices include developing an environment that is both physically and psychologically safe, where the children know that they will not be re-traumatized if they make a mistake, if their behavior is not what we want it to be, that there isn't going to be some sort of trauma imposed on them because of that. They need to know that they can trust us, which means we don't humiliate them, we don't embarrass them, we don't talk down to them, we are very respectful to them. They need to know they have choice and empowerment, because one of the benchmarks of trauma is that something happened to you and there was no choice.
Yes.
You were in a situation that you didn't choose. You had no choices. It was imposed on you. So when we're working with children, we want to make sure to give them lots of choices throughout the day. We don't always know what's happening outside of our settings. There could be any sort of trauma, either directly related to home or not even.
Yeah.
I mean, there could be trauma related to something they're enrolled in, other people they spend time in.
True.
We don't know, okay? We don't know.
Very
There
true.
could be trauma related to things that's beyond people's control. Like socioeconomic status, for example.
Yes.
A family member loses a job. Now there's trauma related to all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So lots of choice and empowerment, because when people who have been through trauma, and it's true for children too, when we say, here's a choice you can make and we're going to empower you, they now feel like they have some control over their environment, and that's very settling to their psyche and their brain chemistry. So we want to do that. And we want to make sure that we collaborate with children. Right? We can give them decisions to make throughout the day. It doesn't have to always be the adult making decisions. So we want to collaborate with them. You know, we want to say things like, well, do you want to read this book or this book?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah.
Or if you start to read a book and a child brings you another book, just say, great, I'm going to hold it right here and I'll read it as soon as we're done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we want to focus on choice, empowerment, collaboration, the building of trust, and the assurance that we are responding to children in a way that teaches them you are not only physically safe in your tiny little chair, but you are also psychologically safe.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And maybe if they are experiencing things that would cause this complex trauma response, then what we do can, it's not going to take it away necessarily, but maybe we can soften the edges, right? I think of it as like, I think of it kind of like, I think of, there are people who are rough around the edges and there are people who are kind of soft around the edges.
Yeah.
And we want to soften it if we at all can.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
All right. So things to advocate for and some food for thought. And always keep in mind that whatever is done with these children is shaping who they will become.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, folks. So if you want to message us,
Yay, wait.
you can, oh, Allison moved her head so that on YouTube you can see the QR code. There's a QR code on YouTube. Come find us on YouTube and subscribe. That helps our algorithm. A logarithm? What is that?
We're
That's like
making
a
up
throwback.
words
That's a throwback to high
episode.
school math or something.
And you don't like math.
I don't.
How
So
do you remember these things? I don't know.
I have no idea. They're just in my brain. So that helps us with the algorithms and stuff. That would be great if you liked and subscribed there. But you can also go and see us. Like hi, there we are. You come and see us. And you can contact us also through our website, and the QR code gives you a link to that. Gives you a link to our Facebook page. So come on over and connect with us. We love getting information from listeners.
Yeah.
All right, folks, we will catch you next time on the podcast, because I'm pretending right now that I'm off to that wedding, but I'm actually recording ahead of time. All right, catch you next time on the podcast,
Bye,
folks.
peeps.